welcoming our partners, Mr. Paul Vingi from Oxfam in Africa, who is the Justice lead. Welcome Madame Cleopatra Urungo, the General Advisor and Gender Team Lead for UNDP Regional Office. I would like to also welcome Madame Hazel Matasini Marite, who is the Chief of Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment, Gender Poverty and Social Policy Division of United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, represented by Mrs. Judith Beatrice Ama-Oduol. Let me also welcome Madame Prudence Nguea, the Director of Women, Gender and Youth Directorate of the African Union Commission, represented here by Ms. Irwad Elmi Mohammed. Let me also welcome Madame Doris Mpoumpou, Special Representative of the UN Women to the African Union, represented here by my sister, Spelchasu Ainalem. Distinguished guests, colleagues, and partners, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to this very important official launch. It is my great honor to welcome you all to the official launch of the African Gender Budgeting Network, which we call AGEBUN. Today marks not only the beginning of new initiative, but also the continuation of a journey that so many of us in this room have been committed to for a very long time. Let me start by acknowledging and appreciating the presence of our co-convening partners and all of you who have joined us today. To our senior partners, UN Women, UNECA, UNDP, Oxfam, and African Union. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of our registered and prospective members of AGEBUN, from CSOs, from women regional organizations, from government departments and agencies, from academia and development organizations. Your presence here is a proof that this work matters to you, and that we are not just walking this path alone. As many of us will know, gender responsive budgeting is not a new convention in Africa, but it is still one of the most underused tools we have for shaping Africa's development. There are too many fiscal policies and development plans that still fail to recognize the realities and priorities of women and girls. One of the greatest challenges we face is the limited knowledge and capacity around GRB, both at institutional and community levels. This gap is in understanding leads to resistance, misconception, and ultimately weak implementation. At the same time, gateway initiatives remain underfunded, and these gaps have slowed the pace of progress and in some cases created pushbacks against the very idea of fair and inclusive budgeting. It is in direct response to these challenges that we have come together to establish AGEBUN, a pan-African network of advocates, researchers, policymakers, practitioners, dedicated to advancing GRB across the continent. This network will serve as a platform for knowledge sharing, peer learning, coordinated advocacy, and technical support to government and institutions. Above all, it will amplify the voices of those pushing for fiscal policies that work for women, men, and communities. On this note, I implore gender equality advocates and machineries who are yet to officially register as members of this network to do so to ensure integration to the activities of this network. It is important to also note that we cannot do this alone. Today, as we launch this network, we call upon our partners, UN Women, UNECA, UNDP, Oxfam, and others to continue to work with us to strengthen our efforts and to ensure that gender-responsive budgeting becomes a lived reality in our continent. With your technical expertise, financial support, and policy influence, we can build a movement that leaves no country or community behind. So, as we launch AGEBUN today, let us see it not just as an event, but a call to action, a call to turn budgets into instruments of justice, of equity, and of sustainable development in Africa. Thank you and welcome once again to the launch of AGEBUN. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Olumide Ajayi. And on that note, we are going to open this meeting by calling on Mr. Paul Vingi, the Interim Gender Justice Lead at Oxfam in Africa, to give us his opening remark. We all remember Mr. Paul was also part of the Gender Responsive Budgeting Workshop that we earlier ran this year. And Oxfam in Africa is actually a critical partner and has provided support to ALF in ensuring that we are able to get to where we are now, working on gender responsive budgeting in Africa. Mr. Paul Vingi, please, you have the floor. We are eager to hear your opening remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Esther. Confirm I am audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thank you. So yeah, my apologies. I'm facing some difficulties here with my camera, but I'm working on it. It's being anti-African, where we're supposed to be seeing each other as we deliberate. So yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're connecting from within the continent. Let me start by observing protocol. Dr. Olumide Ajayi, Executive Director, Africa Leadership Foundation. Madam Cleopatra Urungo, Regional Advisor and Gender Team Lead, UNDP. Madam Keiso Matashane Marite, Chief of Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment, Gender, Poverty, and Social Division, UNECA, who is here represented by Mrs. Judith Beatrice Auma Odwal. Madam Prudence Ngwenya, the Director, Women, Gender and Youth Directorate, Africa Union Commission, represented here by Mrs. Ilwad Elmi Mohammed. Madam Doris Mpoumpou, Special Representative of UN Women to the Africa Union, represented here by Madam Belashachu Ainalem. Distinguished guests, friends and partners, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. And thank you all for gracing this auspicious gathering. It is a real honor to join you today for the official launch of the African Gender Budgeting Network on behalf of Oxfam in Africa. I bring you here warm greetings and heartfelt congratulations for reaching this milestone. Today's launch is more than the unveiling of a network. It is the beginning of a continental movement to ensure that the way we plan and the way we spend resources truly reflects the needs, the rights, and aspirations of all women, men, girls, and boys across Africa. Gender-responsive budgeting is not just a technical exercise, it is a pathway to justice and inclusive development, and a critical step in realizing the promises of the Sustainable Development Goals and the Africa Union Agenda 2063. So allow me to take a moment to appreciate ALF, the Africa Leadership Foundation. If I can just highlight, ALF has been Oxfam Africa's close friend and trusted partner for a long time. Our marriage, if I may call it that, has yielded many good things: joint advocacy, strong continental dialogues, and tangible results for our shared goals of gender equality and social justice. We are proud of what we have achieved together and excited for what lies ahead. The demand that emerged from the regional advocacy workshop in June, where over 600 participants from 40 countries came together, is clear. Africa really needs a sustained platform for learning, collaboration, and advocacy on gender-responsive budgeting. AGEBUN is that platform. It will be a community of practitioners, an advocacy hub, and a knowledge of sharing space, transforming scattered efforts into a united continental movement. Oxfam in Africa stands ready to continue with all of you here, policymakers, civil society, researchers, and development partners, to make gender-responsive budgeting a standard practice in every African country. Together, we can ensure that public budgets are not only numbers on paper, but powerful instruments of equity, dignity, and transformation. As I conclude with the quotes of the great Pan-Africanist Kwame Nkrumah, who once reminded us that the forces that unite us are deep-rooted and greater than the superimposed influences that keep us apart. I'll repeat it again. The forces that unite us are deep-rooted and greater than the superimposed influences that keep us apart. So may AGEBUN embody those uniting forces as we work together for a more just and gender equal Africa. Thank you. Over to you, Esther.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paul. Thank you for your opening remark and for also driving home the point that our key objective is actually to ensure that GRB, that is gender responsive budgeting, becomes a standard practice in all African countries. And for those who might have been joining and are wondering how many network members do we have, what has been our proposition, we have about over 200 gender machineries and gender advocates all over Africa registered to be a part of this network already, which we are hoping to launch today. And on that note, I'm going to call on our next speaker, who is going to give us the opening remark for the keynote address for today. I'm calling on Madam, keynote address, yes. I'm calling on Madam Ms. Cleopatra Urungu, the Regional Advisor and Gender Team Leader at UNDP. Madam Cleopatra, you have the floor to give us your keynote address. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Director, and good morning. Good afternoon to you all colleagues that are joining us from across. And let me stand on existing protocol that has already been established. But on that, I really want to have a special acknowledgement to Dr. Ajayi for your visionary leadership. I just want to acknowledge you and really thanking you for putting this together. I know we have had conversations around this, but when I'm seeing it into fruition, really congratulations to you and your team, but also recognize my colleagues that are coming from the sister agencies, ECA, as well as UN Women that are also joining, and my brother that has just given the statement, and my sister from African Union, ILWAT. Really, it's a pleasure to be joining you all today for this important launch. From our end, really, it's just a statement of solidarity and commitment, and acknowledging the great work that you are leading, Dr. Ajayi, with your Africa Leadership Foundation. It's really groundbreaking. I will really take also from what the previous speaker, Paul, highlighted in terms of, the importance of having this platform where policymakers, the movement can meet to really see how we can influence, and make sure that the investment towards gender equality is not just on paper, but it also trickles down to the majority of people that we are there to represent. These are the women and girls. As UNDP, we are really committed to continue working with civil society organizations, including yourself technically and other ways. And we want to see how we can structure and continue supporting this network to grow, and providing the platform of making sure that it also becomes very effective. But I also want to take this opportunity to also congratulate and really thank the network members themselves, who really saw it important that they should also be part of this big movement that is very transformative in nature. It's not every day you wake up and you get so many people being excited, to learn and to be part of a platform that has a potential of changing, the landscape, our development landscape, and the lives of our women and girls in Africa. So with that, I also want to really acknowledge you for your resilience and your eagerness to really join forces at the continental level and see how we can transform our continent. When we look at gender responsive budgeting, as has been highlighted by Dr. Ajayi, I'm also building on that. It's something that has been there over the years, but what you are doing today, where we are creating a global, a regional, learning platform, is really, I think, a groundbreaking move. And again, congratulations to that. As UNDP, we continue to work on GRB, but our work really is beyond gender responsive budgeting. We work across different member states. In the 46 member states that we have presence in Africa, we continue to work on that. We are particularly working on advancing gender responsive taxation as well as public finance in a number of countries. Some of the countries include maybe countries that you are coming from: Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, amongst others. And what we have seen that is also very important, beyond looking at the policy and supporting policy transformation, we anchor this work also around institutional support, where we are very deliberate and intentional in making sure that these institutions also are gender responsive in terms of their processes, systems, and mechanisms that they have. So through our gender equality seal for public institution, we reinforce the work at the policy level to transform laws and policies that have to do with tax and revenue collection, as well as budget, but also having institutions that are gender responsive. We are also very keen on supporting ministries of finance. We are currently targeting ministries of finance as well as tax revenue authorities, because we are very much cognizant that we need to also be very deliberate and intentional on how revenue is collected before it's even distributed. So our support really is holistic in nature, and we look forward to seeing how we can also continue to collaborate with yourself, Dr. Ajayi, and the team and other civil society organizations to ensure that the advocacy as well as the lobby reflects also the two-pronged approach that we have. Having said that, I would really want to end on a note on really thanking you, Dr. Ajayi, and your team for extending this support, this invitation to us as UNDP. We are really happy to be part of this movement. I know we were part of the training, and we really look forward to see how do we strengthen it, how do we make it grow, and how do we make it a force really for, advocating for transformative change in the manner in which, gender results are budgeted for, but also results are accounted for. On that note, really congratulations and a good day from us. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cleopatra, for giving us that remarkable keynote address. You have been able to reiterate UNDP's commitment to gender responsive budgeting in Africa and also to supporting Africa Leadership Foundation and especially this network in our various engagements, and also driving home the point that the main responsibility for gender responsive budgeting actually lies on the shoulder of major policymakers, which we know can influence processes in Africa, especially within the government in our various countries. On that note, we are going to go to our next keynote speaker for today, which is Ms. Keiso Matashene Marite, the Chief of Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment, Gender Poverty and Social Policy Division at the UNECA, who is ably represented here today by Ms. Judith Beatrice Oma Oduor to give us the next keynote address. Ms. Judith, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I want to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Ajayi and the rest of my fellow speakers. As has been mentioned, I am representing the Chief of Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment, supposed to represent ECA, but unfortunately she's on a mission. So hopefully I'll try my best to represent or to try to convey to you the messages you would have liked to convey to the audience. And I also pass my greetings to the audience. And I also want to just echo what colleagues have said. We cannot thank the team that came together to put, came together to come up with the idea of having a network that will be able to promote gender responsive budgeting on the continent. So I do appreciate the efforts by the Africa Leadership Foundation, Oxfam in Africa, UN Women, UNDP, for their tireless efforts, and including ECA, to make this vision a reality. Of course, at ECA, we believe that public budgets are more than just instruments of expenditure, because they reflect our shared visions, priorities, and commitments to ensure that the interests of all Africans, especially women, girls, and marginalized communities, where our section really focuses on, are addressed. And when we look at the global platforms like the Beijing Declaration, Sustainable Development Goals, Africa Union Agenda 2063, the gender responsive budgeting stands at the center of this promise to enable us to allocate resources in ways that tackle persistent inequalities and empower every member of the society. And of course, I also wanted to remind us that this gathering and to launch the network is very, very important, because it's happening at a time when most of the African governments actually grappling with complex fiscal challenges that range from debt sustainability to climate financing, social protection issues, and digital transformation. But then we should not just look at these as challenges. These are also opportunities. There are opportunities that lie within these challenges. For example, we could use this to reimagine fiscal governance as a tool for inclusion and to build institutions that are responsible to the needs of all the citizens. And I think I also want to echo what colleagues have said, or the previous speakers, that gender responsive budgeting is growing momentum across the continent. A number of countries have also realized the importance. There are various attempts to increase spending, social sectors, to increases in social sector spending. For example, Zambia recently just increased their spending from 63 billion to 73 billion. But this is still not significant, as it's just 34% of the budget. So this tells us that we still need a lot to promote more and to work harder so that we can then come up with agenda-focused reforms that can improve or increase that allocation, budgetary allocation. And this is where the gender responsive, this is where the network actually comes in handy. And of course, we know that there are countries that have demonstrated that actually institutionalizing gender responsive budgeting has significant impacts, tangible impacts in education, health, employment, and we could build on that. Examples like Rwanda, South Africa, they have demonstrated that indeed institutionalizing gender responsive budgeting does have tangible impacts. But again, we still acknowledge that there are still a few countries, not more, that have actually adopted the gender-focused fiscal policies, and very few of them are applying tax analysis, are applying generalizing tax and revenue frameworks. So ECA is not left behind. We have tried also to close this gap, but of course we recognize that we need more partners. It should indeed be a network, and I can't overemphasize the role of the network that we are just about to launch. We have had some work through West Africa, our West Africa office, together with UNDP to institutionalize gender responsive budgeting in Niger that foster participatory dialogue among government, civil society, and the partners. But then also building on this effort, our capacity development unit, which is based in Dakar, does a lot of work on training policymakers across the continent on gender macroeconomics and gender responsive recovery. And building on this, we have also just recently launched a partnership with the Africa Leadership Foundation to advance this work on gender responsive budgeting. So that's a new partnership that we want to celebrate. Now, we also do acknowledge, like I said earlier, that no single institution can accomplish this work alone, that the path to inclusive fiscal governance does require robust institutional collaboration. This was mentioned by the previous speakers. So it does demand that stakeholders, the government, civil society, academia, international organizations work together to align policies, share tools, and coordinate efforts. And it also requires that we center gender equality in every aspect of public finance that ranges from revenue generation to expenditure tracking. So that is why I said, and I can't repeat anymore, that the launch of this AGEBUN is so significant. And we are reminded that the launch is actually going to amplify innovation. There will be various innovations from various countries across the continent that we need to share within the network. We will forge partnerships and also offer technical assistance through this network. It will also serve as a continental hub for peer learning and advocacy. And peer learning, I cannot overemphasize the importance of peer learning, as the countries that I mentioned that have done very well in institutionalized gender budgeting, there are those that are just starting and there are others that are perhaps stuck in the middle. So peer learning is going to be very critical. And this is where AGEBUN is going to come in. Now, placing this at the global context, we have just come from the Financing for Development Conference 4, and this also emphasizes the urgency to allocate adequate financing, or actually work towards financing the gender initiatives. And SDG is also central according to these outcomes that we've just, the global network, the global conference that we've just finish. So as I finish, I wanted to call upon the stakeholders here to remember a few points. That one, for this network, it is going to be critical for us to be able to strengthen institutional and legal frameworks for gender budgeting. And so we should also take advantage of it to enhance investments, robust investments in sex disaggregated data and evidence systems. Also support finance to integrate gender into every stage of the budget cycle, and promote inclusive participatory dialogue so that men, women, youth, and community our fiscal future. So in closing, I know that we have had lots of networks, but I wanted to call upon all of us, the team that came up with this idea, that, and even the stakeholders that are listening, and let's this network be different from what the other networks that we have had, that the gathering should signal not only the birth of a new network, but the launch of a true movement towards visionary governance, deep institutional collaboration, and transformative change. And together, we can build a continent where budgets and fiscal policies reflect the aspirations and realities of all, delivering, of course, on the promise of Agenda 2063 and its goals. And of course, ECA is ready to work with all the members of the network to advance gender-responsive budgeting, close the gender financing gap, and build a future where no one is left behind. And I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Judith, for that very detailed keynote address, which I would want to call a charge. It's like a call to action to all of us, for all that have listened. It's become very obvious that this assignment is not something that a single institution can actually embark on alone, which also drives home that in launching this gender responsive network is actually a step in the right direction to ensure that we integrate gender perspective into our budgeting processes, because we as a network, we are now charged to know that we have the assignment to ensure that countries who are yet to adopt gender-focused fiscal policy begin to do so. And for those who have adopted it, it is now we have to also work and support them and also advocate for effective implementation of it at a country level. And also we, as we all know, that gender responsive budgeting actually stand at the center of allocating resources equitably if we really want to ensure the empowerment of women and girls within our society. Thank you very much once again, Ms. Judith, for that. And then on that note, I have the sole honor to call on Madam Prudence Ongwenya, the Director, Women, Gender and Youth Directorate of the African Union Commission, who is ably represented here by my sister, Ms. Ilwad El Mohammed. Ms. Ilwad, you have the floor. We want to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Esther. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Allow me to stand by the established protocol. It's a deep pride that I speak on behalf of our director here, Prudence Ongwenya, of the Women, Gender and Youth Directorate of the African Union Commission. In this remarkable moment, the launch of the Gender Budgeting Network today marks a turning point as we unite our efforts to ensure that African budgets truly invest in justice, equality, and the full flourishing of women and girls and youth in our beautiful continents. I extend deep appreciation to African Leadership Foundation, ILF, for its leadership in convening civil society, but also development partners, government in this network. ILF has always continued to demonstrate excellence in promoting women's rights through impactful research, policy dialogue, and advocacy. As you know, over a decade ago, in 2018, our member states of the African Union adopted the EU strategy for gender equality and women empowerment, GATEWAY, 2018-2028. And as you know, this strategy stands on 4 primary pillars. The first one is maximizing opportunities, outcomes, and e-tech dividends, ensuring women and girls gain equal access to quality education, to economic empowerment, to financial inclusion, control over productive resources, and benefits also from science, technology, and innovation. The second pillar, dignity, security, and resilience, by safeguarding sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights, eliminating violence and harmful traditional practices, strengthening human security. The third pillar stands for effective laws, policies, and institutions, ratifying, domesticating, and enforcing instruments such as the Maputo Protocol on Women's Rights, the newly adopted Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls, strengthening gender governance systems, integrating gender equality into national policies, and ensuring that legal frameworks and public institutions promote equality. The fourth and last pillar is for leadership, voice, and visibility, making sure to have women's equal participation in leadership, decision-making, affirming women's participation in public life, ensuring that their voices, opinions, experiences are heard and visible in all spheres. These pillars reflect Africa's resolve enshrined in the Constitutive Act of the African Union, which mandates promotion of gender equality. They reflect also on the Agenda 2063, especially Aspiration 6, on Africa, where development is people-driven, relying upon the potential of women and youth, and caring for children. They reflect binding continental instruments. I cited already the Maputo Protocol on Women's Rights that guarantees social, political, economic, and cultural rights of women. The protocol compels member states to allocate budgetary and other resources necessary to full enjoyment of those rights. And of course, the newly Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls that also compels member states to allocate sufficient budget to end violence against women and girls. Through this network, the African Union believes that we affirm that laws and policies alone do not translate into transformation. Invisible gaps remain where resources are not allocated, where monitoring is weak, where decision-making excludes key voices. Gender budgeting places money where it counts. It ensures that legislative and policy commitments to gender equality become visible in what governments do, how resources flow, how services reach people, and how outcomes improve. By ensuring that budgetary processes from planning through implementation and audit integrate gender perspectives, we ensure fairness in allocation. We ensure that youth, women in rural areas, for example, those with disabilities and marginalized communities receive the support, infrastructure, services they need. We enable education, health, care work, economic opportunity, protection, and justice. Gender budgeting advances accountability. It gives citizens tools and governments obligation to report not only on what is promised, but what is delivered. It embeds transparency in priorities, tracking, and evaluation. And we believe at the African Union Commission that its network could achieve a lot in the coming years. First of all, by supporting member states, regional economic communities, the African Union, and other institutions to develop and institutionalize gender-responsive budgeting frameworks, build capacities among ministries of finance, planning, gender, auditors, parliamentaries, civil society to plan, cost, monitor, and evaluate budget lines with gender lenses, promote tools and systems of reporting and accountability, gender audits, gender budget scorecard, gender impact assessments, encourage peer learning, sharing of best practices and development of innovation in public financial management that responds to lived realities of women and girls and youth in Africa. And of course, mobilize resources, technical, financial, political, for gender equality, ensure funding is predictable and long-term and are aligned with the priorities that we identified throughout gender analysis. This network draws strength from our continental legal and policy instruments, as I was saying, the Maputo Protocol, the EU Gender Policy, the Gateway Strategy, Agenda 2063, the SDG 5, the CVOG. We celebrate that many member states have already ratified the Maputo Protocol and made progressive legal reforms. But we evaluate also the importance of full implementation and resource allocation for those instruments to translate into measurable changes. We recognize challenges, of course, competing priorities, data gaps, weak gender management and oversight systems. We also recognize opportunities. Today, we have the digital tools to enhance participations and transparency, regional cooperation, growing civil society mobilization, international and continental partner support, youth activism, raising awareness among citizens, and of course, innovation in participatory budgeting and gender audits. Our ambition is bold and our mandate is clear. We build an Africa where equality is in budgets, it's equality in hope, where every woman and girl, every youth, every marginalized person sees opportunities, and where dignity, rights, resilience, and leadership shine in every community. May this network germinate seeds of transformative in every member state. May it strengthen our partnership, deepen our impact, and may it lead our continent towards the Africa we want, prosperous, inclusive, and just. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hilda, for that beautiful address. You have been able to let us know that GRB is very important in the effective implementation of the various African gender frameworks. There are various initiatives, of course, and frameworks that are in place to support gender equality and women empowerment in Africa. We have the Maputo Protocol, we have the SDGA, and then the newly adopted African Union Convention on Eliminating Violence Against Women and Girls. And gender responsive budgeting is very critical if we want to effectively implement this. And of course, this frameworks on its own does not just translate into empowerment for women, except we effectively and equitably direct appropriate resources to ensure the implementation of this framework. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, partners and colleagues, and everyone joined on this call today, the ultimate moment is here when we launch this network. But before we do that, I will want to quickly take us through what this network is about, our objective, the core objective of this network that we call AGEBUN is to strengthen gender responsive fiscal governance across Africa through a coordinated platform that empowers practitioners, supports policy, advocacy, and sustain peer learning. We have various objectives that we hope this network is going to achieve with our collective efforts. We are going to advocate for policy reforms and financing commitments that institutionalize gender responsive budgeting at both national, subnational, and continental level. We are going to provide government with tailored support to integrate gender analysis into budget planning, execution, and performance monitoring. This network is also set up, thirdly, to offer expert advisory services on gender budgeting tools, audits and impact assessment for institutions seeking to enhance gender equality in resource use. Fourthly, the network would equip civil society organizations, women rights organizations, youth, parliamentarians, and community influencers with the knowledge and the necessary skill that is demanded to track and monitor implementation of gender budgeting. Then 5, we will promote knowledge generation and sharing by documentary country experiences, good practices, and lesson learned. This is just basically said within ourselves in the network, we are going to be sharing experiences. We look at what works in this country and how we can adapt it in other countries. And lastly, which is the 6th objective, is to importantly raise awareness and popularize gender responsive budgeting through various campaigns, digital engagement, and collaborations with media, academia, and development institutions. Those are the key objectives of the network. And as you know, with our own collective efforts and partnership, and with our partners that have joined and the various commitments that we have gotten today, we believe that the network will have various active outcomes that would ensure that gender responsive practitioners are established and it becomes operational. So on that note, I would want to call on Madame Doris Mpoumpou, the special representative of UN Women to the African Union, to launch this great network. Madame Doris, I have the honor to call you to come to the call. We invite you to launch this network. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Moderator. But before I proceed with the launch, allow me to say on behalf of UN Women a few words. First, allow me also to stand on pre-established protocol. And also, I really want to take this opportunity to congratulate Dr. Ajayi and the entire Africa Leadership Foundation for materializing this important vision of a Pan-African network on gender responsive budgeting. It truly is an honor to join you for this historic launch of the African Gender Budgeting Network. This initiative comes at a pivotal moment. As Africa celebrates, we all celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, and the 70th session of the Commission, the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. The Beijing Platform for Action, it's a review, the 30th review, the Africa Regional Review reminds us that budgets are not only technical tools, but they are political statements of what we value and what we prioritize. So it also warns us that without targeting financing, even the most progressive policies risk becoming empty promises. Across Africa, we have powerful examples of gender budgeting at government level. So countries such as Kenya, Morocco, Rwanda, Uganda, South Africa, and the West African Economic Monetary Union have pioneered gender responsive budgeting. It is encouraging that the proportion of African countries tracking allocations for gender equality has more than doubled in recent years. Yet challenges of course remains. Allocations are too small, tracking systems remain weak, and too few budgets are truly gender responsive across all sectors. Globally, only 26% of countries have systems that comprehensively track gender equality in national budgets, and Africa reflects this gap. For UN Women, this networks represents a concrete milestone in our mission to make every budget gender responsive. But we are guided by our triple mandate: the normative, the coordination, and the operational. It aligns with, so our mandate aligns with Africa's commitment under the Maputo Protocol, and we heard it from the from ILWAD, the Solemn Declaration on Gender Equality in Africa, the Agenda 2063, and the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. So the tools in terms of policy, we're doing very well. Our work demonstrates that what is possible. Across 83 countries, UN Women has supported the adoption of nearly 490 gender-responsive policies and strategies, potentially benefiting more than 2.7 billion women and girls worldwide. In Nigeria, for example, our support led to 30% increase in funding for gender-responsive program, and this influenced over 21 trillion in Naira, so the equivalent of $26 billion in national and state spending. These results show that when financing follows commitments, women's lives truly change. So again, I commend the Africa Leadership Foundation, Oxfam in Africa, UNECA, UNDP, and many other partners who have made it possible, this day possible. So most importantly, I salute of course, the leadership of Dr. Ajayi and your team, really remarkable. Women's movement, youth network, and civil society organizations whose relentless advocacy has also brought gender-responsive budgeting to the center of Africa's development. Today, with the launch of the African Gender Budgeting Network, we are not just creating a network, we are institutionalizing a movement, and many of the previous speakers spoke to that at that point of creating, institutionalizing a movement that insists that Africa must not only commit to gender equality, but also finance it, sustain it, and deliver it. That is the Africa we are working for. That is the future this network is here to deliver. And with those words, it is my great privilege to declare the African Gender Budgeting Network officially launched. Again, congratulations to Dr. Ajayi, his team, and everyone involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madame Doris Mpoumpou, who had taken time to officially launch this network today. We are very, very grateful. We are also very grateful to all of our partners who have been here. Before I ask my colleagues to wrap up, I want to thank you, especially our partners led by the UN Women, UNDP, ECA, and Oxfam. We will be reaching out to you after this meeting on the various support for this new network so that we can take off as quickly as possible. To AGEBUN members, We are saying to you that the work starts now. We will also be reaching out to you, sharing with you the various programs and activities of the network. Some people are asking how to join. My colleague will reach out to you. If you can drop your email address on the chat, we will reach out to you. We already, like we said, have recruited 235 members before we launched this morning, and they are coming from 32 African countries. So this is where we are, and I want to thank all of you. I hand over to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Olumide Ajayi, for adding your voice to Madame Doris, and thank you, Madame Doris, for launching the network. With that, we want to say thank you for everyone who has joined us. Please, like Dr. Ajayi said, you can leave your email address in the chat. We are going to send you a communication after now, both to aspiring members and for the members that are already registered. You would also get a communication from us on the next step and how to activate the network and start our engagement. We are going to operate in form of a forum, so you might be added to various platforms. Please feel free to join and then to also lend your voice in this course of advocating for gender responsive budgeting in Africa. I want to say that this is a call to action for all of us. And as we all go from here, let us start thinking, even within our various assignments and based on our various experiences, on how we can enrich this network and the various initiatives that we might have probably used, probably on a project or in our country, that we want to bring on board to support what we'll be doing together jointly. Thank you so much for joining. And before we go, please let's have a group photograph. We would like you to put on your camera while we take a quick picture, so that we have a memory of the pioneer members of this network. Please feel free to put on your camera quickly. I'll call on our IT personnel, Sabik, to take us through that. Please, Sabik, I don't know if you pin any screen, if you have to unpin it so that we can take a quick picture. We are 9 minutes. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you to our partner, Madam Judith. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for coming. My sister, Heward. Thank you so much. And see you all. And yeah, we'll see and connect. Thank you. Bye-bye.